I think that your traditional Irish novel of the 1960s was, a young Irish person coming into contact with their sexuality, coming into conflict with the church and authorities, and getting a boat to England. And it was like, and they were very often banned, and they were holding up a big mirror to Irish society. The story is more complicated now, and so this novel is like a mirror, but the mirror has collapsed and it's in small pieces, and so each voice in the novel is a true reflection of one of those small pieces of the mirror, but of course all the reflections are different. And so what I liked about the novel, as I like any of my novels, but the idea I liked about the novel was that no one person in the novel would know the full truth, even at the very end of the novel, and only us, the readers, would know. We would know the world of the Irish, we would know the world of the Eastern Europeans, we would know the world of the Filipinos, we would know all these worlds, and we would see them all. And the person who becomes very important in the novel is the daughter of Sophie, who is a young lesbian, and who has not... Alice has always wanted to be free. At the age of 19, she did her exams in school, and she had very little money, and she went on a plane to Canada, and she wanted to become somebody new. She was almost like a butterfly coming out from being a caterpillar and ready to fly away. And her daughter Sophie actually just goes and, without realising it, lives the life that Alice would have lived, but maybe Alice would never have been able to live. Yeah. This is what I wanted to do, at the risk of testing the patience of the reader, but to make that jigsaw and to have all those stories happening at the one time, but yet they are not independent stories.
Of course,
because what happens to each of the characters is dependent on the other characters. Most of the viewers won't know Dublin and Dublin's social history, but the richer part of Dublin is the south side, and then moving outside Dublin, there was an area called, before independence, it was called Kingstown. It was very Protestant and very pro-British, and then it became Dún Laoghaire, and Blackrock is like a suburb of Dún Laoghaire. It's not quite part of Dublin, and it's not quite and Dublin can be quite poor, and it's not quite part of the richness of Dún Laoghaire, and it's like a satellite town between two, so it's like a certain limbo. Many of the people would like to live in a richer area. Many people outside would like to live in Blackrock. And also, I am from a working class suburb of Finglas, and so and the novel is not about me in any way. So by setting it, sometimes I will write a novel in a woman's point of view to make it clear this is not me, but setting it in this very quite well-off suburb that I am never likely to live in separated me from, and also many of my early books explored working class Dublin life at a time before Roddy Doyle, who was a great writer, and before many other writers came around and began to explore those worlds. And so I said, well, I know nothing about this other world. So, in some ways, I was like one of the Eastern Europeans coming in and peering in at this very, very rich world. So I just found it was like setting a novel in a foreign country for me. It was a country when they didn't speak a foreign language, and I knew the streets, but yet it wasn't my world. Alice and Chris, they almost have an ongoing conversation in the book, which is the way marriage is. In that it winds up being that when people have a row over some small thing at breakfast, it is not really about that small thing. It is like a continuation of an ongoing dispute or unhappiness, and so there is this. It takes certain traumatic events before Alice and Chris can finally be totally honest with each other. And very often when they are arguing with somebody, they are not really giving out to that person, they are really saying, will you please understand what I'm trying to say to you? Will you listen to the unspoken words behind the spoken words? So there is a lot of that in the novel. Well, if there were no secrets, there would be no novels. I would be back making welding rods in the factory where I began my working life. And if Pasternak says in one of his Dr. Zhivago poems, to live your life is not as simple as to cross a field. And of course there are secrets in every marriage and in every life, and those are the fault lines that any novelist wants to explore. At one stage, although the Irish have a reputation for being very friendly, and we are very friendly, but one of the Eastern Europeans saying that the Irish used their friendliness like a weapon. And the world that Alice grew up in is a world that people often think that 1940s and 50s and 60s Ireland was dominated by the cult of the Catholic Church, but really it was dominated by respectability, the cult of respectability, by people trying to prove to their neighbours that they were happy and that everything was good in their lives, and it became that you wound up not living your life for fear that you would cause scandal to your neighbours, and so it was very, very false. And it was a very secretive world that real life happened behind the closed doors, and the life that you showed to the outside world was totally different. This is true of all countries. Although it was handy to set the novel in this small area of Black Rock, I think the nice thing for me as a writer is when somebody says to me, "Oh, your novel reminded me of my childhood," and I say, "Where in Ireland are you from?" And they say, "No, I'm from Chicago or Montreal or something," because people are people, and people are the same the world over, and marriage is marriage, and relationship is relationship. And I think that sometimes if you're too general, you will lose the reader, but if you are very, very specific and set it in a very, very specific place and go into the intimacy and difficulty of that relationship, people who have never been in that place will still see, "Oh, I see myself in here." You're trying to create something set in a very specific place to make it real, but you're trying to write things that are hopefully universal. See, one of the great advantages of being a novelist is that you need to reinvent yourself every 3 years. You need to go and you start on a new book in a new world. And I have a new book just published in Ireland called The Lonely Sea in the Sky, and that is set in during the Second World War in Ireland. So it's very, very different, but I think each time as a writer you try and write something new. Yeah. But this book, Together Apart or Tanglewood, is very much like a companion piece to The Fall of Ireland, or a temporary illusion, a transient illusion as it was called in French. So having spent several years imagining myself trying to buy a house in Blackrock, I then spent the last year imagining myself as a 14-year-old boy on a tiny Irish sailing ship going to Lisbon during the war. And, that is out now, and I don't know where I will go next in my mind, but that is the great privilege of being a writer, is that you're allowed to sit down at your desk and go anywhere and be anyone. And the extraordinary thing is that you find slowly that there are readers in France and in Ireland and in America and other places who are willing to go on those journeys with you.